Welcome to The Conversation on News Central Television. This is a program where we bring you up to speed with all the political happenings on the African continent. I am Gbenga, Aborowa.
And I am Rita, Omodia. It's a brand new week on The Conversation, and today's edition we'll be looking at the tension in Senegal as the presidential coalition has accused the opposition of causing chaos in the country. And this is happening amidst the violence caused by the imprisonment of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko.
And later on the show, we will switch gears to Nigeria, where the Nigerian Labour Congress has made it clear that there is no going back on their proposed industrial action worldwide, stated for Wednesday if the federal government refuses to return to the status quo on the fuel subsidy removal. Interesting development both in Senegal and Nigeria, and I look forward to having that conversation. How has life been adjusting to the new subsidy regime?
I like that you asked that question because I'm going to still ask that question to you, but trust me, for every Nigerian, I mean for myself personally, it's been hard looking at transportation, looking at getting fuel. It's not been easy at all.
I'll just use this opportunity to join the Fit Farm Club. Instead of having 2 pieces of meat, I will have just one.
Chicken. Why are you saying taking meat? How about you deciding to just trek? You understand?
No, it's too sunny.
But that's Fit Farm.
And as international anchors like us, we can't be seen trekking on the streets.
It shows humility.
It doesn't all
It
go
shows
well.
you feeling the plight of Nigeria.
Why don't you do it since you are very humble?
Well, anyway, it's in Senegal. Gbenga, I know you're trying to hit that, but in Senegal, it's a serious situation. I mean, globally, we saw lots of trends talking about free Senegal. It's quite a sad thing looking at the country, and even the AU chairperson, Macky Sall, being in this kind of position.
Exactly. Looking at the history of Senegal, it's been touted as, a bastion of stability in the West African region, and to see all of this happening, very avoidable too, and it's all politics. But our guests will help us make sense of it all as we get into the details. So we begin in Senegal, where the Senegalese presidential coalition has accused the opposition of destabilizing the country amidst ongoing riots triggered by the imprisonment of opposition politician Ousmane Sonko. The death toll has reached 15 as violent clashes between police and opposition supporters continue. The coalition, led by Minister of Tourism Mame Mbaye Niang, condemns those who called for protest, arson and the collapse of the state, considering them irresponsible. The riots erupted after Sonko received a 2-year prison sentence for corruption charges following his acquittal on rape charges.
The situation remains tense, with the government deploying a significant security presence to maintain order. The sentencing of Sonko has sparked a widespread outrage among his supporters, who believe the charges were politically motivated to hinder his potential presidential candidacy. The protests quickly turned violent, resulting in widespread destruction of public and private property. Sonko himself remains confined in his residence, claiming to be illegally held. The government's efforts to control the situation have not yet yielded a resolution, and concerns are mounting about the long-term impact of the unrest on the stability and security of Senegal. Let's now take a look at what the government in Senegal has to say concerning this protest.
Autant que jamais, les Sénégalais sont debout. Et je parle des vrais Sénégalais. Je ne parle pas de ces Sénégalais qui ont voulu attiser le feu, déstabiliser le pays et fuir leur domicile et disparaître dans la nature parce qu'aujourd'hui, ils vivent la torpeur. Voilà des gens qui sont irresponsables. Ils ont appelé à des manifestations. Ils ont appelé à ce que les édifices publics soient brûlés. Ils ont appelé à l'effondrement de l'État. J'ai appelé la jeunesse sénégalaise à travers ces organisations d'ASC et de Conseil national de la jeunesse de s'organiser quartier par quartier. Nous allons défendre nos quartiers, nous allons défendre nos communes, nous allons défendre notre département et nous allons défendre notre pays face à ces gens-là qui veulent nous mettre dans un chaos impossible parce que l'État prendra toutes ses responsabilités.
And that's the tourism minister in Senegal saying that the opposition is trying to fan the flames of the stability in the country. But let's hear from our guests now, and join us for this conversation. We have Alassane, Pan-African activist. He joins us from Dakar, Senegal. We also have Ousmane Diallo, a senior researcher, Francophone West Africa, Amnesty International West and Central Africa Regional Office. He also joins us from the capital, Dakar, in Senegal. Gentlemen, welcome to the conversation. I'm going to begin with you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. It's good to have you on the conversation. And starting with you, Alassane, I mean, given the recent riots and the accusations made by the presidential coalition against the opposition, what exactly are the underlying political dynamics that have contributed to the current unrest in Senegal?
Okay, thank you for the invitation. I would like to underline in the very clearly. The problem in Senegal. It is between Macky Sall and Ousmane Sonko. Those two, the leader and the opposition. It is something that people must know. It is a problem which you divide it in two parts. In one part, the president is responsible, but in another part is also Ousmane Sonko has responsible on something because of the disrespect of some institution. And if you are a leader and you ask to become the leader of the power, you have to respect directly the institution. So when you come to the power, and it will be easier to you to continue and to govern it clearly. But according to Macky Sall, its system since its beginning at the as a leader of Senegal, his strategy of elimination of some open leaders. It is that factor that pushes some Senegalese to do not understand exactly the situation of Ousmane Sonko. It is something that a lot of people must understand. Because as a fanatical activist, I cannot imagine in the beginning you say I will do exactly two times as the first election when he win it, and after the referendum he told you he will do one round, and after that he want to do a third round, and without telling that, because people know the strategy that he's doing. It is why some people think that it has been to this position that he's dealing with the justice to eliminate Ousmane Sonko. But the system or the problem of Ousmane Sonko is beyond also of that. Sometimes he is an empty life that he was maybe having, if I'm not going disrespectful, and he had a problem of justice. It is two citizens who have the problem between justice. That this problem also he politicizes directly this situation, and showing that the public it is not only because I have a problem of justice. It's because also the president wants to eliminate justly my candidature to the president election, and this is something that people must understand. We have sometimes to discover as an African revolution this kind of things. If the problem have if the president have this intuition, we not allow him to do that. But Ousmane Sonko also must know that the institution are something to respect for. Okay, that I had to add.
I would like to bring Ousmane Diallo into this conversation. Now, Ousmane, could you provide an analysis of Ousmane Sonko's sentencing and the allegations against him? Quite a number of observers have said, it's all politically motivated. How has this affected the public's perception of the government and the opposition? Can you kindly unmute your device, please?
Apologies, and thank you very much. I would like to start my sentence by saying that the death toll linked to the protest and the excessive use of force by the police have gone beyond the number of 20 and is way beyond the 16 that were announced on Saturday. And this is probably the most lethal incidence of excessive use of force in Senegal since the year 2000. And regarding the sentencing of Ousmane Sonko, I think it's important to put it in context. The initial charges against Ousmane Sonko were for rape and death threats against a masseurs at a parlor named Sweet Boti in February 2021. And that was on this complaint filed at the gendarmerie that an investigation was opened and led to his sentencing last week. Now, during the debates at the court, the judge decided to relax Ousmane Sonko of the case of the charge of death threat and disqualify the account of the charge of rape and qualified as corruption of youth. And so it is in this basis that he was convicted for a 2-year sentence behind jails. And the protests that ensured the conviction are strongly rooted in the distrust against the judiciary and the belief that the charges against Ousmane Sonko for rape and death threats, for which he was not convicted by the court on Thursday, were politically motivated by Macky Sall and his regime. And I think the problem is that over the last 5 years in Senegal, there have been elements that have nourished that distrust against the judiciary, such as the conviction of the former mayor of Dakar, Khalifa Sall, in 2017 for embezzlement and graft, which led to his elimination from the presidential election in February 2019, and the conviction also of Karim Wade, the son of the former president of Senegal, Aborowa, in 2015, that also led to his elimination from the presidential race in 2019. And thus, many in Senegal believe that the conviction of Ousmane Sonko, which would make him disqualified for the 2024 February elections, is a political ploy by the current president to eliminate another adversary. And so that is why people have taken on the street and have used violence to attack what they believe as businesses and private properties that are that belongs to those close to the ruling powers. And we have come to this death toll and this internet suspension and the social media restriction as part of the government's clampdown on the protests.
Okay, thank you, Ousmane. I'd like to stay with you for a bit. You mentioned the internet connection. First of all, I'd like to know the status. How are things exactly in Senegal? Do we still have protests on the street? Is there still an issue with internet in Senegal? And then secondly, we saw a video clip where the government said that these are ploys by the opposition to destabilize the country. So tell us why the government would make such insinuations, because on the other hand, you talked about that the arrest and the prosecution of Ousmane Sonko has been politically motivated. Why is the government saying that this is the fault of the opposition to destabilize the country?
So the government has been using that rhetoric about calling for insurrection and a plot to destabilize the country to malign the opposition and civil society since the beginning of the year. And it is partly rooted in Ousmane Sonko's discourse about his distrust about the judiciary, the fact that the judiciary is corrupt, that they are under the thumb of the president and will be his executioners and the executioners of his presidential ambitions, and his calls for protest and civil disobedience in Ziguinchor and in Dakar in order to exert pressure on the street against the government. And they have been using these elements to call, to say that there have been occultic forces and a plot to destabilize the country. But I think what is concerning in Senegal is that for 8 days now, for 9 days, Ousmane Sonko has been detained in his own house without any communication with his lawyers, without any communication to the outside world. And so this concerns not only Ousmane Sonko, but also all the persons in his household, his wife, his children, his personal and staff. And this is something that is not based on any law, because the police officers that barricade the neighborhood and even the judiciary cannot tell us on which basis they have assigned him into his residence. And lastly, my point is that since the March 2021 protest, there have been open source documentation of hoodlums hired by political actors close to the ruling power that participates in the policing of demonstrations in Senegal, especially to clamp down on protesters. And we have seen that a lot over the last 4 days in Senegal. Sometimes they can be seen operating next to the police and the gendarmerie, which are mandated by law to maintain public order. But there have been no actions to arrest those people, and the police, in their communique last night, denying any presence of nervi which are those hoodlums, and also say that those using violence are part of the protesters.
Thank you very much, Ousmane. Now, back to you, Alassane. What are the main grievances of the protesters, and how have these grievances evolved over time? Are there any broader social economic factors that have contributed to the frustration and led to the violent measures that we've witnessed in this protest?
Hello?
Yes, Alassane, did you get my question?
Yes, I problem of noise. Just camera education and back on it, please.
Yes, I said, what are the main grievances of the protesters? And are there any broader social or economic factors that have contributed to their frustration and led to the violent measures that we've witnessed recently?
Yes, actually, economically we are not in a good point because all the internet people are working with the internet, and the internet doesn't work. You see, we are connecting with you by cell phone directly, and it is something that the government did because he didn't like to destabilize the country. Okay, that's why they eliminated it, and it is a big damage from economically because the banks like Wave and Atlantic Bank, all these banks can't work without internet, and that affects directly our economic and all those clients that they are ruling with internet. And this is something we do not even like because we are not actually in a position where actually democratically people have something to express, and you take away the internet and things like that just because people are expressing them position, even if some manifestations are violent and are not very very good. It is something that some activists like I do not underline have good. And for not going so far, I would like to summarize for you in Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and the whole Africa. We have to do an African revolution, and this African revolution cannot occur in the point between two people. I mean, the two citizens. It is a common revolution that we have to do today. It is to how to eliminate our borders and to go around one African Federation. So it is only the one thing that people must do so to get out of this kind of trouble. Because not having the great institutions that always push some people to try to destabilize the institution and to manipulate them. It is in the case in Senegal when our opponent leaders think that the opposition is something. The justice is something to manipulate, and the leader on the power think that he can manipulate. The justice. That means, in some words, Africa doesn't have.
All right, Alassane, you've been saying a whole lot about this African revolution, looking at the situation going on in Senegal. I'm going to bring the discussion now to Ousmane, and we're looking at the interests of external factors and what the regional forces have said. Because you talked about the judiciary, you talked about the law enforcement agencies, the fact that Ousmane Sonko is still being illegally detained in his home. So firstly, has there been any, or do you feel there's any influence of external factors, and what have been the efforts of regional actors in trying to, solve the situation going on in Senegal?
So I think the situation in Senegal has reigned across the region.
All right, Alassane, just hold on a bit. I want Ousmane to answer this, please.
Okay, thank you.
In Senegal does ring across the region, because if you look at the issue of third-term bids, it has been central to the discussions in the ECOWAS system region, especially with what happened in Côte d'Ivoire in 2020. And recently we have had presidents that have left power peacefully after their second term, such as the case of Nigeria just last week, and the case of the Republic of Niger 2 years ago. And I think across the region, the situation in Senegal reflects will impact the credibility of ECOWAS as a regional political system. Because if the third term bid that is supposedly the ambition of President Macky Sall does successfully goes through, it means that ECOWAS will not have any legitimacy to challenge the military takeovers that have occurred in Guinea in September 2021, in Burkina Faso in 2022, and in Mali, because in the argument of these military juntas, the inability of ECOWAS to solve political problems such as the one that we are currently experiencing in Senegal has been one of their key reasons in intervening in the political system. And so it does ring out across the ECOWAS region, especially when we consider also the issue of anti-French sentiment that has been rising across the region, and in which among the Pan-Africanists, Ousmane Sonko does represent a beacon of change in Senegal, especially.
Ousmane, sorry, has it been confirmed that President Macky Sall will be going for a third term in office? Has there been anything or any reason to confirm these insinuations?
So it hasn't been confirmed.
Now, staying with you, Ousmane, considering the complex nature of the issues at hand, what steps should both the government of Senegal and the opposition take to de-escalate tensions, these tensions, and work towards a peaceful resolution?
I think right now the situation is so tense in Senegal that there has to be an intervention by a key third-term actors such as former presidents of Senegal, President Aborowa and President Abdou Diouf, who can call to order the opposition but also the ruling power in order to put the best interest of Senegal at heart and Senegal's legacy of stability and of democratic consolidation. Also, it could be useful to have a key regional actor, a key regional figure, to mediate between the Senegalese actors, because the tensions is so high right now that none of the parts would like to take a step back, because nobody wants to show a weak hand, and they are ready to go to the confrontation, even if it means that more Senegalese people will die. But I think a good gesture of this de-escalation would be the lifting of the officious assignment to residence of Ousmane Sonko, and then that could pave the way to dialogue between the two parties. But it will be very hard to say that that dialogue will be fruitful without the intervention of a third key actor.
Is there room for Ousmane Sonko to still appeal this judgment, or is final?
So there is this issue. Since Ousmane Sonko wasn't present during the trial, and the judge in his conviction ruling said that he was judged in absentia, according to Senegalese criminal code, he cannot appeal. So he cannot appeal, and the sentencing is final. So, but that opinion has been already challenged by the lawyers of Ousmane Sonko, the lawyers of the defense, who said that since the initial charges were changed from rape and death threats to corruption of youth, it means that the provisions of abstention doesn't apply in the case of Ousmane Sonko, and that he will be able to appeal the conviction, but that remains to be seen.
All right, thank you so much, Ousmane. We'll definitely be following up with conversations and going on in Senegal. We do hope that these two parties can come to a dialogue and peace is brought back to Senegal. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation. Also, a very big thank you to Alassane for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll go for a quick break right now. When we come back, we'll go straight to Nigeria, where the Nigeria Labour Congress is saying there is no going back on proposed nationwide strike after the removal of fuel subsidy in Nigeria. We'll have these conversations after the break. Join us again.